Yeah, if there's no other questions, then I think we're going to bring up the changes on the screen. I just wanted to point out that we did have additional suggestions for language change throughout the presentations. We're not actually proposing to make any of those changes unless some of them would have taken us back to where we were. Some of them added more specificity to certain revisions we had made. If there was anything in particular you wanted to ask about and wanted us to answer as to what our thoughts are on that, we're happy to do that. I wasn't sure if you wanted us to go through all of the proposed changes and explain, but okay. So do you want to?
So what we did was we just took the composite version and added a couple of changes. So the first set are actually just remnants from changes that we made throughout the process. This is about, and the first one I think Janine shows up on page 34 or thereabouts. One of the changes we made earlier was to be more specific about the Defenders of Wildlife v. Browner case and the holding, and referring to the fact that the states and EPA have discretion about requiring compliance or strict compliance with water quality standards. So there's two places where we failed to insert the word strict. The first one is here, you'll see on page 33 or 34, depending which version you're using. The other is on page 61. So we were proposing to add the word strict here where you saw it on the screen on, that was 34. And then to add the word strictly up at the top of that page 61, so it would read, but the requirements to strictly meet water quality standards are at the discretion of the permitting agency. Those are two just kind of cleanup changes. The other set of changes that we are proposing are consistent with what the LA Regional Board asked for. Several of the permittee cities supported, and Casco also supported, and that's on page 52, 53, and also footnote number 133. And we took the language that the Regional Board suggested. If you go up a little higher, you should see it in the very bottom of that line. If you scroll down a bit, it's the sentence that starts, "This notwithstanding," parts 6C1D and 6C5B42, etc. So it's those two sentences that we're proposing to add. We made a couple of conforming changes also. If you can scroll back up to the paragraph above that, a little higher right there, we added, just at the very bottom of the screen, the reference to 6E. So it's parts 5A and 6E of the order. This was also something that the Regional Board recommended. And we also added, it's kind of buried because it all shows in the same color, unfortunately, but in the middle of the insert on that page, we added in the sentence, the permittee's obligation to comply with the receiving water limitations. We added and WQBLs and other TMDL specific limitations, just to make it all fully consistent. And then in footnote number 133, which should be just below that, we added the language that was suggested by the LA Regional Board. We also added a citation at the very top of that line, the first line of 133 to section 6C3A, page 53. And I believe those are all the changes that we recommended. So again, it's that last bundle of changes was to be consistent with the Regional Board's request and to make a couple of conforming changes along with it. And as Mel said, we weren't proposing any other changes at this point, unless the board's asking for something. And I believe the rest of what was discussed would be in the form of a motion.
have to modify my
There you
motion
go.
now. So I will move for adoption of this item with change sheet 1 as well as these additional changes just read into the record by Mr. Wiles and read out loud. And also with a direction to staff to bring a board item sometime after the regional board take up the petition with respect to the WIMS and have that item be broad enough to include issues such as funding, such as other MS4 permits in other regional water board, and tying it to the stormwater strategic initiative that staff is working on.
So I would, if you'd accept a friendly recommendation from council, I would split that into two parts. That following any petitions that may be filed challenging the WIMPs, the board would have a specific workshop on those issues, and that would probably be this fall. And then the periodic check-in, which at least initially will be annually, would be the broader description that Ms. Dodek just described.
I will accept that friendly modification from council. And with that, I move for all of the expressed actions and motions.
Second. Any discussion or comments?
Yeah, if I may, I won't go on and on, but one thing, as we move into this phase, and this is for really our partners out there in the environmental community and in the municipal communities, you know, we're in an uncomfortable place where there were standards adopted for drainage in the mid-20th century. And public entities and private implemented those standards for drainage in good faith, because that's what they're supposed to do. And then in 1987, new standards were overlaying on those old standards. And it's our challenge to modify a great infrastructure that our forebears have provided us to meet this new set of standards, water quality standards. This is not a process that happens overnight. It's frustrating that it happened, it's 25 years to come to this point, but we've also learned a lot about river science and hydrology and watershed science and processes, and now we have a better idea of how to re-engineer this vast drainage infrastructure to meet this new set of standards. And so we will reconcile those sets of disparate standards, and we'll use time to achieve it. And what's wonderful is that the magic of water and what it does to an urban landscape if you take advantage of all of the things it can do to bring life to areas of your city that you might have written off as lifeless. And so with that, I just urge everyone to continue to work together and use this architecture that's proposed as this fabulous new opportunity to reinvent our cities and reconcile these different sets of standards for the 21st century.
Just a big thank you to all the staff who worked on this tremendous effort.
Fran, anything? Just thumbs? Yeah. All right. I just want to say before we vote, I find this very difficult. I have to say I have a lot of, I share some of the fears and concerns from the environmental community, but I'm also not willing to totally torque the direction. So hopefully the bells and whistles and review and all of that that we put on this will mean we'll be successful. If we're not successful and it's just delay, it will be heartbreaking. But I do feel that there's a lot of interest in moving forward and a lot of intention and commitment on our part, on the regional board's part, and certainly on the stakeholders' part. So I'm willing to take a certain leap of faith, but again, it's not blind faith. It's the trust but verify kind of faith and a commitment that I'm making and we're making today that we're going to stay with it, not just go on to the next thing, or else it could be a big mistake. I also know there's a whole passel of legal issues out there, both from the environmental community and some of the cities and us, where we just don't necessarily agree on what the law requires. Undoubtedly, there will be litigation to resolve that, and that's just the way that's going to have to go, and then we'll know and we'll find out. And that's why I didn't dive into all of those issues on both sides, because I think that just will be resolved. And I didn't mean to give it short shrift today. And we'll have to follow up on the costs and all the work yet to be done. So this is a commitment to spending a lot of time on this. I will say, though, with that fear, this does, as I said, have the potential to be a tremendous leap forward, but only if we do it. So here's to us all making sure it actually happens and that it works, and to not just moving on to the next thing, because it's hard to find anything more important, I think, in terms of not just dealing with a water quality issue, but helping us be a partner in working with transforming cities in the way that Steve can say very lyrically, but that mayors across this country, not just in California, are embracing. And that perhaps may be the piece that gives me the most optimism that we're on the march, because it's not just us talking about this. This is us trying to enable and facilitate a movement that's happening all over the country, and figuring out how to leverage, enable, speed it up, but also be a thoughtful partner is the real dilemma and the challenge that we face. So with that, I'll ask all in favor.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you all for all of your time, and I feel all of your different fears and disappointments, and we'll hopefully make it all work. Thank you very much for the time you put into it, and we'll see you all very soon. Turning to our next item, my apologies to you all for us being far later than we thought we would be. For my money on the pool, was right on this one. So are you all okay with us just moving into the next item, since people have waited so long and the Warriors game is going to start at some point? Potty break, right, yeah. Okay, 10 minutes? 10-minute break, and then we'll start. That's right.